Andrew Ross Sorkin, back in 2008, Ron Paul ran.
Yes.
And a lot of people that felt disconnected from Washington got behind him. He always talked about taking on the Fed, aggressively regulating the Fed. He'd like to get rid of the Fed. You have a story about something that Ron Paul's done to hold the Fed more accountable.
He just, today's New York Times. Thank you. He just, they passed in committee an amendment that effectively gives Congress, or would give Congress, an immense amount of power and oversight, really, over the Fed for the first time.
He's talking about auditing the Fed.
He's talking about auditing the Fed.
Take us to that point where we can audit the Fed?
This is serious auditing. So for the first time, and there's some good parts to this, which is transparency. We have no idea all of these toxic assets that the Fed has been buying and handing back cash to banks. Right. We have no idea what that stuff is.
And I guess the question, why the hell shouldn't we have been auditing the Fed all along?
Well, here's the issue. And here it goes against everything that I think as a journalist we stand for when it comes to transparency. When you start auditing the Fed, when you start getting involved in the monetary policy, you're going to get to a point where interest rates, for example, are going to start getting set by politicians and not by someone who's ostensibly independent. Now, I know there's people who will tell you that Ben Bernanke and the Fed is not independent in any way because there's a political angle to that.
But why do we treat them like they're like a collection of the oracles of Delphi?
I don't think we should.
I don't think we should.
I think we should question them. But the question, the larger question becomes: think Paul Volcker in the 80s. He did things that were so politically reprehensible, frankly, but to actually raise interest rates to a point where, you know, it was horrific. But if you had the political pressure that we might have under this new program, then the question becomes, would you be able to actually set monetary policy appropriately?
You're saying would Volcker have had the ability to do what he did, which was politically unpopular, but he actually
and I think unfortunately
economy.
To do the right thing, if you're running the Fed, you have to do a lot of things that are politically unpopular.
Well, it's one thing but we ought to at least be able to audit them. Well, I'm not saying I want Barney Frank to tell the Fed how to set interest rates, but damn it, I want to know what's going on behind those closed doors. No longer are we going to look at a nod and a wink and say, okay, we know.
And I'll tell you,
that's bull.
To Ron Paul's credit, there are some provisions in this amendment that actually make it so that when they're actually auditing them, they're actually looking 6 months backwards. So there is that angle that at least you're actually able to do something without having Congress totally over you. But I still think, depending on how you do it, and the issue of the monetary policy, that's the distinction. It's the monetary policy as opposed to what are the assets. You want to understand its balance sheet. I don't know if you want to know exactly what went into that interest rate.
Why not?
I want to know everything.
Why not?
Because it's going to be so politically unpopular. It's going to make it impossible. You don't believe it's going to make it impossible? If you're Ben Bernanke, it's going to make it impossible to make a decision.
People who get that job should be tough enough to stand up to political scrutiny.
Do you know anybody who's really tough enough to stand up to political scrutiny?
Pat Buchanan.
Pat Buchanan, Ben Bernanke. Todd Palin. Have you seen Todd?
Tough. You know, I was looking at him. His shirt was off, looking into those baby blue eyes.
All right.
Oh, my.
Hey, Nora, thank you so much. Apparently some great emails coming in. We'll get to those next.
Nora,
angry
thanks.
Emails.
Great job, Nora.
Great to see you guys.